Hi, this is Pastor Robin, and I want to invite you into this time in which we explore the Psalms. Today I'm going to be reading for you a psalm that I suspect that if I asked many of you what your favorite psalm is, I suspect this would be one of those top 10. Perhaps the 23rd Psalm might be number one for quite a few people, but I believe that this definitely is one of most people, they love the Psalm, and it is Psalm 139. Hear now these words. For the director of music, O David, a psalm. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them became to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I wake, I am still with you. If only you, God, would slay the wicked. Away from me, you who are bloodthirsty. They speak of you with evil intent. Your adversaries misuse your name. Do I not hate those who hate you, Lord, and abhor those who are in rebellion against you? I have nothing but hatred for them. I count them my enemies. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. The Psalm of David, one of the reasons why we love it so much is because it is an assurance that there is nowhere that we can go that God will not be with us. There's a fallacy or an untruth that is spoken often that God cannot be in the presence of evil. Be careful when you think that, because that implies that evil is greater than God, and that we know that is not true. Because here in this psalm, David says, "Surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me. Even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you." You see, there's nowhere that God cannot go, because God expels all darkness. Of course, we hear this again in John's Gospel, that Jesus is the light and that He expels all darkness. I love how we hear God and His very nature, which is light, in this psalm, and yet we hear it again in the very nature of Jesus, who is also God. And so that reminds us that it doesn't matter where we go, that God is there with us. And that if we go into those places that are dark, that are filled with sin, that are evil. Yes, God abhors that. He does. But yet He goes there with us. And I believe with all of my heart that the moment that we call on His name, and it's not something that we've done, but it's a grace that He's already given us. It's that grace that is already expelling that darkness. Yes, even before we call on His name. Because the Psalm tells us that He is there with us. I think when we listen to this, we think about the times in our life, the dark times in our life, and we feel so utterly alone. And yet David, and of course David had many times like that as he was being persecuted, of course, by Saul. That's one of the most obvious stories. But even by himself, when he, of course, not only slept with Bathsheba, but also when he has Bathsheba's husband killed. I know that in that moment, especially as his son is dying, that David felt alone. And out of that loneliness, he remembers that God is there with him. That God hasn't even left him in those moments in which he has not been the ruler that God had called him to be. There's another part of this psalm that I think we often read the very first part of the psalm and we miss the very last part of it, in which he says, "If only you, God, would slay the wicked. Away from me, you bloodthirsty. They speak of you with evil intent. Your adversaries misuse your name. Do I not hate those that hate you, Lord? And abhor those who are in rebellion against you." I think in that moment, David was very angry, hating Saul, hating those who sought to not only to destroy him, but to destroy God, or what he thought was destroying God. We know that Saul was chosen by God. He was. But we also know that Saul lost his way, and that to some extent their historical evidence give us rise to the thought that Saul basically went crazy, that he was mentally ill. And then David says, "I hate those who hate you. I hate those who are persecuting me." And I think in that moment, as he utters those words, he hears them really, truly, not here, but he hears them here. Because don't miss what he says at the very end. He says, "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thought. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." You see, later Jesus would echo these words, but he would say them this way. He would say, when someone offends you, turn the other cheek. He would say, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. You see, David knew that even as he was saying that he hated those who hated him or hated God, he knew as soon as he said it that that's not the way of God. That if God is willing to go to the depths with David, then certainly God's willing to go to the depths with Saul. Have you ever thought about looking at your enemy that way? Today I would encourage you once again to read Psalm 139. And as you read it, think about that one person that you just don't really like. And I'd like for you to picture that person, or put that person's name in this psalm as you're reading. And imagine that the Lord is speaking to that person, and that at this very moment that God is with that person too. And then I ask you to read those last words. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Ask God to change your heart about your enemies, so that perhaps your enemies may come to know Jesus. And your enemy is no longer your enemy, but your friend. Amen.